Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new Pokemon TCG video. So the deck that we're actually going to be taking a look at today is relatively atypical, but definitely a very fun deck to use and quite annoying to deal with once it actually does get going. So the deck that is actually going to center around the Victini EX, so we're pretty much going to be focusing on using his Turbo Energize attack to try and speed up the rate of energy attachment to our bench Pokemon. So namely speaking, we're going to be using Victini EX to try and power up our Aegislash as soon as possible, because I mean right off the bat you guys can see that it requires a total of 4 energies to be able to use its King's Shield attack, so very energetically expensive. So I mean that's why Victini EX is quite crucial to this deck. I mean another deck, sort of another substitute to Victini EX that you guys could actually use would be using the Bronze or Bronzong. But I've actually tested that out and it hasn't been going too well, and I definitely felt like Victini EX was nicer, so that's what we're actually going to be focusing on using today. So King's Shield attack, right off the bat you guys can see that it does not do a lot of damage. It only does for 50 damage, but one of the beautiful things about it is that it actually prevents all damage from our opponent's attacks to this Pokemon during our opponent's next turn, so definitely quite nice. But again, one of the downfalls to it is that we actually can't use King's Shield during our next turn. So what we're actually going to do to try and compensate for that is we're actually going to include a Keldeo EX. We're going to be able to use its Russian ability, and with a Float Stone we're going to go and be able to retreat our Keldeo EX and use the Pokemon to attack once again. So we're going to be able to use Aegislash, this King's Shield attack, the next turn as well. So definitely quite nice. And also, I mean, in case we actually don't have our Keldeo EX, we're actually going to be running quite a lot of Float Stone, so we can simply retreat the Aegislash, bring out another Aegislash, and again use King's Shield. So definitely a lot of ways to go about in this deck. So I mean, we definitely want to overcome the major weakness to this attack, namely being that we can't use it again the next turn. So we're going to try and compensate for that. So I mean, that's where one of the key weaknesses to this deck actually lies. Again, since we're actually using the Victini EX, we're going to be using a very atypical A-Spec card. So we're going to be focusing on using the Victory Piece. Quite nice in that it allows us to use any of our Victini EX's attacks, even if we do not have any energies attached to him. So very nice. I mean, we can absolutely use that as an opportunity to attach energies to any of our other Pokemon, any of our bench Pokemon and things like that. So quite a nice A-Spec card. It's probably one of the few decks that you're actually going to be seeing running Victory Piece. So yeah, so that's actually the A-Spec card that we are going to be running in this deck respectively. We're going to be running one Aegislash EX. Just a very nice and annoying Pokemon to deal with its Mighty Shield ability. It prevents any damage from being done to this Pokemon by our opponent's attacks, at least to the, with respect to the Pokemon that have their that have any special energies attached to them. So Aegislash EX, quite nice. We're going to include just one of him in our deck. We're also going to be including one Mewtwo EX with its X-Ball attack. We're going to be able to dish out a lot of damage. Just Mewtwo EX in general is a very nice Pokemon to include in a lot of different types of decks. So we're going to be including just one of him in this deck. Keldeo EX I've already discussed. We're going to be focusing on using his Russian ability, and then with a Float Stone we can go right ahead and retreat him. So definitely very nice. You guys might want to actually increase it to 2, but I felt like 1 should be enough. I mean, this deck is relatively tightly packed, and I feel like most of the cards here were pretty crucial. So I mean, again, it was a personal decision. You guys may want to entirely scrap out the Aegislash EX if you feel like running another Keldeo EX would be a wiser choice. And I mean, if you do, absolutely go right ahead and see how well that works out for you guys. Some other cards that we're going to be running, not going to discuss the typical supporter cards and the Ultra Ball, the VS Seeker, pretty self-explanatory. We're going to be running a total of 2 rare candies. Since we're running quite a few stage 2 Pokemon, rare candy just works very nice with respects to that. So 2 of them is the number that we're going to be running in this deck. We are running a 4-2-4 line of Aegislash. Sorry, I've actually forgot to talk about this Aegislash. This Aegislash is nice in that in certain situations we want to just deal out a lot more damage. So the Buster Swing attack does hit for 120 damage, and in case it's not viable for us to actually switch out our Aegislashes, or perhaps we don't have a benched Aegislash, for example, that's fully loaded up and ready to attack, we can just switch out our Aegislash with this one and hit for 120 damage with the Buster Swing attack. So quite nice. So we are going to be including just one of him in our deck. We're also going to be running 3 Steel Shelters as our stadium card, just a nice counter stadium, and the fact that we are running a lot of steel Pokemon, and this will allow us to prevent our Pokemon from being poisoned, for example. Just very nice. So we're going to be including one of this, 3 copies of this in our deck. We're also going to be running a total of 13 energy cards, 6 of them being steel, 3 of them being fire, and 4 being double colorless energies. So with that being said, guys, let's go right ahead and see how well this deck works. Again, I wouldn't necessarily see this is a very competitive deck. I would say this is more so of a fun, maybe troll type of deck. So hopefully we're able to perform quite nicely. Definitely do see some potential in this deck, but I mean, it's by no means competitive enough that it'll allow us to destroy our opponents or anything like that. Hopefully we're still able to perform quite nicely, and it's nonetheless a very enjoyable deck for us to use. Okay, so it looks like we're actually going to start off with a Keldeo EX and a Honedge, so I'm definitely going to bring out the Keldeo EX as our active Pokemon. I'm going to use the Ultra Ball probably to grab out a Victini. It would be nice if our opponent played a couple of bench Pokemon, but unfortunately it doesn't look like he's going to do that, because I absolutely do want to use our Colress and draw out at least some energy cards just to try and get the energy acceleration going, hopefully nice and early. But again, not the greatest hand. If our opponent actually does use an N, I'd actually be very satisfied with him doing that. Not sure what our opponent's doing right now. Okay, so looks like he's finally got things sorted out. So it looks like our opponent's actually using a Victini EX, Genesect EX type of deck. But the great thing for us is that actually our Victini EX and with the Victory Piece attachment would be able to perform the one-hit KO on these Pokemon. So definitely quite nice. Victory Piece, I mean, we'll be able to attack without actually attaching any energy to our Pokemon. So probably going to be using that as opposed to using the Victini EX with respects to using the energy acceleration. Okay, so let's see. So I'm definitely going to go and grab out the Victini EX. I'm gonna go right ahead and unfortunately discard our Aegislash EX and a Lysander to grab out a Victini. Possibly one of the worst hands that I've started off with respects to using this deck ever. And unfortunately, I'm going to go and Colress for just 2 cards in our hand. Man, that's unfortunate. And looks like we're unable to do anything else right now, so I'm going to have to end our turn. And unfortunately for us as well, Keldeo EX is weak to the Leaf Pokemon. So that Victini EX will be able to deal out a massive amount of damage to our Keldeo EX very early on into the game. And looks like our opponent is going to start getting his Pokemon loaded, because I mean the Emerald Slash attack is going to allow our opponent to search out for 2 Leaf energy cards and attach them to his bench Pokemon. So definitely not something nice. I'm assuming he's going to use the Skyla to grab out an Ultra Ball, and looks like I was right, and power up that Genesect EX. And yeah, so not exactly the greatest situation for us. Hopefully we're able to grab onto a Professor Juniper, another Colress, a VS Seekers, I don't know, something useful, because we've had a relatively poor start, and it doesn't look like we're actually going to have any of those cards. If our opponent actually does have a Plasma Energy and lures out our Victini EX, not exactly going to be the greatest situation, but for now I'm going to go right ahead and attach the double colorless energy to our Victini EX, and with that we're unfortunately going to have to end our turn. I mean, our intensifying burn is actually loaded up right now, so we can absolutely use it to get rid of our opponent's Genesect EX or his Victini EX. And okay, perfect. I'm definitely going to use it to get rid of that Genesect EX, by far the most threatening Pokemon to us right now. Luckily for us, Victini EX would not be able to perform the one-hit knockout on our Pokemon. And I'm gonna go right ahead and attach the Steel Energy to our Honedge, really hoping that we draw something useful, a nice supporter card, a Skyla, anything. So let's go right ahead and get rid of that Genesect EX and draw for 2 prize cards. Victini EX looks like he's the the sort of nice little Pokemon that we have going here. So very nice. We will be able to perform another one-hit knockout on our opponent's Victini EXs. So I'm very happy about that. Let's see, our opponent actually gave up a lot of cards, and that G booster is in the discard pile, so that's quite nice. So I mean, this means that it can be quite troubling for him to actually deal with our Aegislashes once we do get it going. I'm going to use the Skyla to grab out a Professor Juniper. Absolutely feel like that would be the nicest card to go and grab. So let's go right ahead and grab out the Juniper. And let's see, would any other card be more useful? No, I don't think so. So let's go right ahead and do that and get rid of our opponent's Victini EX again with another one-hit knockout. So definitely a very nice start for us. Looks like this deck is actually quite potent against the Victini EX Genesect EX type deck, and we actually don't even have the Victory Pierce E-Spec card attached to our Victini EX. I mean, if we did, then we would not have even needed all these energies attached to our Victini EX. So it's quite nice. We do have a relatively nice start, and it looks like our opponent's actually going to grab out the N and reduce the number of cards in our hand next turn at least, because luckily this turn he wasted his supporter card by using the Skyla. So I mean, quite a nice game for us right now. I mean, it's very fast paced. Looks like we're already down to 2 prize cards on both sides of the field. Let's go right ahead and attach the double colorless energy to our Honedge as well as a float stone. Gonna go and use the Professor Juniper, and okay, not exactly what I was looking for, but if our opponent actually does knock out our Honedge, we do have the Victini EXs. I'm going to use the Skyla. Hopefully, I'm actually going to place as many of my Pokemon down, so our opponent is actually has some second thoughts with respects to whether or not he should use his his N, because I mean, if I can grab out the Skyla and then retreat our Honedge, we can go and win this game. But for now, I'm just gonna go right ahead and retreat him and bring out the other Honedge and end our turn. So I mean, as long as our opponent doesn't end us, we should hopefully be able to win soon. I felt like retreating our Honedge would actually have been the smarter choice, just because I don't want him to get knocked out, and I don't know, like really, if I can actually grab out a victory piece, we would be able to win this game. Unfortunately, you guys have not seen us use our Aegislashes per se, but I mean, just giving a good old Virizion Genesect EX beatdown is always something that I enjoy, because I mean, it's quite an annoying and powerful deck to deal with. So hopefully we are able to win, but not exactly. Things aren't exactly in our favor if our opponent, well, actually, I don't know, I wouldn't say things are in our favor and things are not in our favor. Okay, and it looks like we are actually going to be able to win. That was probably a mistake on our opponent's part on using the Skyla. So let's go right ahead and use our Skyla, grab out the victory piece for the victory, and looks like our deck is actually going to win. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. You can absolutely go ahead and play with this sort of deck. Definitely quite fun to use. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.